Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to another Late for Class video. Another Late for Class with my psychedelic, as someone said in the comments of the last video, the 80s Wachowski brothers effect going on there. Obviously I haven't had time to fix it or look into it or figure out what's going on today, but I will get that taken care of. But for one more video with this effect anyway, I wanted to talk about something that occurred to me today. Watching some YouTube channels, some videos of people that made the quartering, made a great video on this, Doug Ernst did. And this was the Twitter user who tweeted about how he didn't like the look of the Unicorn Store film that Brie Larson directed and is going to be featured on Netflix now. And how Brie Larson, Netflix first, and then Brie Larson herself, and then just every shill media place in the world from just all these places they were listing, has just gone off and writing these articles about how, Netflix shut down a troll, an evil troll was trying to say something bad about Brie Larson's film. And people have been pointing out different aspects of this, how it's ridiculous, how Princess Larson needs to be so protected by the media, and the way people are trying to, and we've seen this from Disney even flat out admitted to how they're combating trolls, right? Anybody who thinks the wrong thing, anybody who's critical of a piece of art now is suddenly a troll. There was nothing in that man's tweet that was even remotely trollish, but they had to shut him down because he was critical, and they can't have that. And this brought to mind a couple of things. First of all, in terms of that issue and that situation, Unicorn Store already failed. That came out in 2017, is the quartering points out. And everybody just didn't like it at all. So now they're just trying to, as the guy who was writing the tweet said, they're trying to capitalize on the popularity of Captain Marvel and trying to re-release it. And I'll go even farther than the guy did. That trailer looks horrifying. Everybody saying that Captain Marvel needed to smile. Dear God, after seeing Brie Larson smile in that commercial for the Unicorn Store, that was horrifying. I don't ever want to see that again, superhero movie or no. That was rough. But the idea here that you need to shut down critiques, we got to shut down that, as Tug always likes to call it, wrong think. And it's absolutely true that they have this mentality. This came down from, I think it came into culture from the academic world. So that's where I'm going to speak to it from in my studies of it there. When I was studying for the MA in English, one of the basic courses you take is a history of critical thinking or critical theory, history of critical literary theory. And one of the things they teach you is that, thank God, the modern literary critical theories, thank God they came along, because before they did, all we had in like the 50s and before were professors who were just trying to learn things about the work itself, or learn things about the authors themselves, and just trying to look at the story. And we can't have that, right? We need to have so much more than that. So critical theory developed, and structuralist and post-structuralist and Foucault and dear God incarnate, Jacques Derrida. Oh, gives me the willies thinking about these assholes that I had to learn about. But to the point where we have today, the only accepted critical theories that you're allowed to study or to push in the academic world, the only ones that will get you in any kind of farther down the road in any way in an academic career, is feminist theory, queer theory, post-colonial theory, Marxist theory. Maybe they have another gender deconstructionist or whatever if they haven't lumped that in with some others. But these are all very extremist liberal SJW agendas. And that's all you're allowed to do now, is to use literature to push that agenda. So that's how it has been in the academic world. And now we're seeing that happen in the popular world as well, just in terms of fans and the industry of writing stories, creating films or whatever, telling stories and trying to sell it to an audience. People are now being shamed and punished and facing sanctions for not getting on board and liking the right films and liking the right messages and lauding them for these right messages. It's ridiculous. All this guy did was tweet about how he didn't like the trailer for this movie. And all of a sudden, Netflix goes off and lists, Brie Larson, all of her credentials. Well, where did those credentials help her at when it was time for this movie to do any kind of, make any kind of waves when it was first released? Where were those credentials at for her then? Why should they matter at all now? Complete and total, that doesn't follow. And then for everybody just to pile on, this is ridiculous. This is not in any way anybody looking at a story and saying this has value, this has worth as a story, as the story craft, as a piece of art. All of the SJW propaganda and nonsense is this story, this movie, this comic, this whatever. This has value when it comes to perpetuating our agenda. This has value when it comes to promoting and pushing our agenda. Therefore, it must be protected, and that's why Brie Larson has to be protected. That's why what's his name? James Gunn from the Guardians of the Galaxy. That's why he has to be welcomed back with open arms. But Roseanne, that woman out of here, she was insulting someone on our side. We can't have that. It's very much about these lines drawn. Now, what is this doing? It used to be that you would see authors face this kind of treatment of their work, and they would say, no, I'm writing a story. This is what I was doing with the story. These are the themes that I was doing. This is what I was trying to, that was the response from the actual artists or creators or storytellers themselves. Now, that's not even the problem. That's not even the case anymore. Now, the authors themselves are part of this SJW propagandist world, and they are out there trying to say, yes, that's right. That's what we need in the world. We need more of the diversity for diversity's sake. We need more of all of this, and we need more of these agendas pushed, and they're trying to say the same thing about their own work. How can that not lead to a poor quality of storytelling and art all the way around? How can that not lead to the degradation of art in every way? It's a sad thing. Not just writers and storytellers, but actors, producers. I've talked before about how it's getting to the point where it's honestly too hard to separate the art from the artist. I mean, when you have the actors who have been embodying these characters in ways where you laud them for understanding them, and you think that's great. They really understand these characters. That this is great. They know them. And then they come out and say, no, if you don't believe this, and that, that's what this character stands for. This is what Captain America would do. And then Kevin Feige coming out and saying, yes, this is the right way to be, and this is what Cap would be. I mean, they're no longer allowing you separation of art from artists. They are pushing in their very agenda, everything they're doing and telling you is trying to say, no, everything I have in my personal life and my personal agenda and my personal Twitter feed is everything that this character would have. And if you don't like the one, then you can't have the other. That's what they're telling you. That's just flat out what they're telling you. And it's just nonsense. This has to break somewhere because the art is going to suffer for it. Story is going to suffer for it. And if mythology suffers, then culture suffers. That's the way that works. So it's really a shame to see. But I wanted to chime in my own take on it in terms of where it's coming from and what it's done in the academic world and how it's permeated there and the effects of it, and how I see the same thing trickling over into mainstream culture. And it needs to be stopped. It needs to be stopped some way. And one way to do that is to make our own stories, show that we don't need the system, which they're desperately trying to make us still need. And one way to do that is to go into the indie world. You make your own comics, you make your own movies and stuff like that, and and until these characters become public domain, which would honestly be the best thing for them, then all you can do is create your own. So that is what we are doing. That's what a lot of filmmakers and musicians and writers are doing. I'm doing that with Dave T on Tales from the Stacks, and a lot of people involved there with the covers and everything. That's what we're doing. And you will see the ad at the end of this video for Tales from the Stacks. It is a graphic novel anthology series in the spirit of the original Twilight Zone. None of this nonsense woke AF Twilight Zone that Jordan Peele is trying to push, which lacks imagination because all it is trying to preach you a sermon. No, that's not what the original Twilight Zone was doing. There's a great quote by Rod Serling that I quoted on my live stream the other night. He said, no, you have to first address living flesh and blood human beings. Always carry with you what you care about in the world, but leave those platforms, leave those soapboxes behind. Otherwise, just go out and write tracks, because you're not wanting to write art. You're not wanting to write fiction then. And that is what so many writers and filmmakers need to be told today in today's culture. So yeah, check out Tales from the Stacks. That we are purposefully portraying women as drop dead sexy. Now, not reduced to nothing but sexy either. You'll see in the stories that you've got some incredibly profound characters, but they're going to embrace their femininity. The men are going to embrace masculinity if that's what they're embracing or whatever. I mean, we're not just having cliche characters either, but we're not going to shy away from just basic real storycraft and tenets of storytelling and character progression that have been proven true over the centuries. So, ad for that is at the end of the video. Tales from the Stacks on Indiegogo. And if that one doesn't strike you as something you'd like to back, check out the other offerings. There are tons of them. Go on Indiegogo, go on Indiecron, go on some of these websites which have all of these people who are saying, I've had it. The industry isn't giving me the stories that I want, so I might as well tell my own. And we found a way to bypass the industry, which has been the great grand gatekeeper, of anybody who would dare think something different and try and come in and tell a story. That's over now. Now we have our new way of doing things. So check all of that out, and we'll have more car videos, late for class videos to come soon. More live streams, of course, and more cultural commentaries. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.
Do you like comics that are unafraid to portray women as feminine and men as masculine? Do you enjoy being entertained rather than preached to? If so, then you'll love my own graphic novel currently on Indiegogo. Tales from the Stacks is an anthology series in the vein of the Twilight Zone or Tales from the Crypt. It contains 3 uncanny tales to thrill and haunt you long after reading. With interior art by Dave T. and variant covers by John Malin, Kyle Ritter, and Kyung Lee, you have lots of options to choose from. You can find the link in the description below or search Indiegogo for Tales from the Stacks, and tell the comic industry you don't have to settle for their social agenda platforming. Thanks. And last but not least, don't forget that your Professor Geek now has a merch store. Check out the current options from t-shirts to magnets to the iconic Professor Geek coffee mug, and let me know if you'd like to see something else. The link is in the description, or you can go to cafepress.com/ProfessorGeek.